to today's webinar. This is African Growth Tribe, and for this month, we are doing for this year so far, we've been doing a series on getting into tech. My name is Idogo Esther, co founder of African Growth Tribe, alongside Bimileke Anthony, who cannot be here today due to some reasons. But we've talked about getting into tech series from data engineers to data analysts. We've also had people on software and just other aspects of getting into tech. So today we're going to talk about penetrating testing. When I saw it, I was like, which one is penetration testing in the first place? But that's why we're here, to find out what penetration testing is. And we have our guest. She's very punctual. You guys have been keeping her waiting. She's been here since 6 o'clock, right? So we have Abigail Inyang as our guest for today. So she's an application security engineer specializing in securing APIs, web and mobile application. Her work spans penetration testing, DevSecOps, cloud and container security, and threat modeling, helping organizations secure, helping organizations build secure by design system. With multiple industry certification and um, hands-on experience, she collaborates closely with development teams to integrate security into the SDLC, proactively mitigate risk and stay ahead of emerging threats. So how do we say it in LinkedIn English, or how do we say it with AGT joy and excitement? Please welcome Abigail Inyang, our guest for today, who will be talking to us about penetration testing. So Abigail, over to you. You guys should clap. If you don't clap, she won't say anything. I need to see the clapping emoji. Before Abigail, wait for the clap. If you don't see, don't talk. Oh. Aha! Thank you, thank you. All right, now you can say something.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me. Yeah, thank you very much, Esther.
You're
Yeah, so
welcome. You're welcome.
I'm going to share my screen this moment. Can you see my screen?
Sure. Yeah, we can see your screen.
Okay. Okay. So yeah, let's get started. Yes, welcome everyone to today's session. I'm Abigail Inyang, and today I would be talking to us about penetration testing, which is a field in cybersecurity. So in this webinar here, we are going to discuss the introduction to penetration testing, the types of penetration testing. We're also going to cover the types of pen testing approaches here. Then we will learn about what the difference between internal and external pen test is. After that, we will explore the different methodologies, right, in penetration testing. Then we look at the different pen testing phases. After that, the scope of a penetration test, and then we look at where you can kickstart your pen testing joining, and we'll finally end it with a question and answer session. Yeah, so let's jump right in. Yeah, so what is penetration testing? What is penetration testing all about? Yeah, so before I define what penetration testing is, let's imagine three houses. So we have house A, which has the fence, right? How it has a fence, it has a guard dog, and it has a CCTV camera. House B has just a gate protector and locks. House C has just a door, no fence, no guard dog, nothing, just the door and windows here. So these are like three different houses, and these houses, right, represents companies. So house A is like company one, house B is company two, house C is company three, right? And the like we have for house A, right, which has a guard dog. The guard dog, the fence, the CCTV camera represents like different layers of security in a company. Meaning the different ways that a company goes about to secure their organization, to secure customers' data. For house B is like house B that just uses the gate protector is like a company that just uses bare to minimum like layer of security, right, to protect their organization. While else here, right, the organization is using multiple layers to secure the organization. House C, the organization is like using no to very little to no layers of security, right, to secure their organization. Yeah, so let's just have these different houses in mind. We are going to come back to them when we are explaining what penetration testing is here. So now, what is penetration testing? Penetration testing is like hiring someone. Who is this someone? The person you're hiring, right, is a pen tester. So penetration testing is hiring a pen tester to test how secure these houses are, right? The pen tester is going to try to break into the house without breaking laws, right? Laws like the laws and regulations in place here. And they are going to report the vulnerabilities that exist back to the company. So, as a penetration tester, your job is going to help organizations to discover vulnerabilities in their companies, in their systems, right? In the infrastructures there. So let's come back to the houses. Like we said, house A, right, has like different layers of security. As a pen tester, your job is going to be to look for ways you can bypass the guard dog, right? Look for ways you can bypass the CCTV camera. You look for ways you can get past the fence and then get into the house. Your main goal, right? Your number one goal is to get past these levels of security and get access to the house. For house B, right? For house B, you're going to look for ways you can get past unlock the gate, right, and get access to the house. For house C, which has very little to no level of security, it might be easier compared to the other two houses, right, to get access to house C. So as a pen tester, your job is to look for ways you can look for vulnerabilities that exist in these houses, which represent companies, right, to exploit the vulnerabilities and then gain access to the house. So a penetration tester helps the house owner, aka the company, right, to understand what a real attacker could do, and to also help the company understand how they can fix the issues before criminals do. So as a pen tester, you're going to help help the company, right, understand what a real attacker could do. So your when you successfully hacked into house A, you've gained access to house A, right? You're going to report back to the company. Oh, this is how I was able to bypass the guard dog. This is how I was able to bypass the CCTV camera. This is how I was able to jump past the fence. This is what I did to get past the fence, right, and get access to the house. So these are the things you're going to write in your report when you're reporting back to the company, and then you recommend ways that the company can go about like fixing the vulnerabilities that you discover. Also, the goal of a penetration testing is to not just gain access to the house. So, as a pen tester, after you've gained access to the house, which is the company, after you've gained access to the company, right? That after you've gained access to the company, you're going to see how far you can go in that house. So you've gained access to the living room, to the living room. Can you get to the master's bedroom? Other can you get to other segments, right, I mean in the company? Can you get to other networks, right, in the company? So you're not just looking at gaining that initial access to the company, right? You're looking at how far you can go. What valuables can you steal? What valuables can you get, right, from this company? What valuables can you get from the company, and how far you can reach as a penetration tester, how much information you can get from this company. So this is going to help the organizations to understand how vulnerable they are as like a company, how vulnerable their security networks are. Yeah, so that is the for penetration testing. So Cisco, right, which is a well-known cybersecurity organization, defines defines pen testing as like an organized, targeted, and authorized attack attempt to test IT infrastructures and its defenders, right, to discover points of exploitation, like we've already said. So your role as a pen tester, right? Pen testing, you're carrying out these things with an authorization that has been given to you. We see pen testing is organized, it's targeted, it's also authorized. You're performing this test, right? These attacks with an authority that has been given to you. You don't have to go and test an organization network without you being authorized to. You're going to get arrested, yeah, if you're caught. So pen testing, you're performing it with the authority given to you. Yes, you have access to our networks. You're allowed to perform our networks. Yeah. So pen testing, you're looking for ways you can get access to the IT infrastructures, get past the defenders that has been put in place, like the different like security controls that have been put in place in that organization. You're going to look for ways to bypass them, right? Exploit those vulnerabilities, and then to help the organizations understand how weak they are. So the goal of a pen test is to help organizations understand how weak they are, right? How weak they are to how weak their defense are to, right, and how easily they can get exploited by cyber attackers. So you're helping them to understand to discover vulnerabilities in their systems, and also reporting those vulnerabilities to them to help them fix them. So another word for penetration testing is pen testing. So I might be using these words interchangeably, right? So I might say penetration testing now and then say pen testing next. So just know that another word for penetration testing is pen testing or pen test. Yeah. So next up, we have why is penetration testing important? Yeah, so you might be wondering, okay, so this is pen testing. Why is it important, right? Why is it important for an organization? So penetration testing is important because it helps an organization to identify it provides an organization with a comprehensive security assessment. Like it helps the organizations to identify vulnerability in their systems that might have gone undetected in other testing methods. Yeah, so for example, when a company is performing quality assurance, they are not going to discover security vulnerabilities that a pen tester would majorly do. So as a pen testing is important because it helps the organization to discover comprehensive security. It provides the organization, I mean, with a comprehensive security assessment, helping them to identify weaknesses, loopholes in their systems that other testing methods won't. Like an organization might be using third-party tools, right, to scan the packages that they are using, the dependencies that they are using. But those tools might not discover the vulnerabilities that a pen tester would do, right? They don't discover the vulnerabilities that a pen tester would normally discover. So pen testing is important because it provides comprehensive security assessment, helping you discover vulnerabilities that go undetected, right, in other testing methods. Another reason for the importance of pen testing is that it helps organizations to identify security vulnerabilities. Here, so it's just similar to the first reason. So it helps an organization to identify security vulnerabilities that are present in the different layers, right? So there's a recent attack that is a cyber attack that happened just this week, right? For on an app that's named T. Yes, so let's say on Wednesday, this app trended for what its purpose is, which is like where women gather to discuss how their date went with men, right? To discuss the red flags they discovered in a particular guy. So that's what the app is mainly for. So on Wednesday, the app went popular on Twitter, right? And people were talking about it being bad. Some people liked it, some people didn't. So and then on Thursday, we see that this another news came up where this app, I mean, was compromised, right? So the app was compromised, and attackers were able to gather information that belong to all users, right, in that use that app. So they got their ID cards, their personal informations, so many personal informations, right, that are supposed to be kept private. They got it from that app. So it shows the important penetration testing is important because if because this organization did not perform a pen test, this organization did not hire a security professional, right, to perform a pen test, their app was vulnerable, allowing attackers, right, to to identify vulnerabilities in the app, exploit them, and then gain access to informations about the customers. Now we have the faces of the customers, right, of this app all over the internet just because of an organization who refused to secure their app. If so pen testing is important because it helps organizations identify security vulnerabilities. Another reason is because it helps organizations to validate the security controls that have been put in place. So an organization, right, may have used a firewall to protect their web application. They have to hire a security professional to perform a pen test, right, to know how to know to know if that firewall can be bypassed, right? If that firewall can be bypassed, they have to hire professionals in place to see if the intrusion prevention systems they have put in place can be bypassed, right? So this you have to this is another importance of pen testing, right? Hiring pen testers to validate the security controls that have been put in place in your organization. Like we have the house. So for the house, right, the dog, you're going to hire the let's go back to house A, right, which has the camera, the dog, and the fence. So this is like the company. So as a company now, you're going to hire the pen tester to see if the dog you've put in place is really doing its job, right? If the camera it's really doing its job, if the fence it really doing its job. So these are the things you hire a pen tester for, to know if the security controls that you've put in place are really working well, right? Are really like efficient, the effectiveness of these security controls. Yes. So the next thing is to protect customers and then your shareholders. Yeah, let's go back to the T app that exposed the information of the app users, right? Their names and their faces, everything about them, their ID cards, their location, right? Even their physical locations are exposed on the internet now because are exposed on the internet now just because a company, right? An organization failed to protect them. An organization failed to protect them. And this can result in lawsuits, right? This can result in reputational damage. Now, people know that the T app, while it was doing while it was performing its function, it wasn't secure at all. People were just using an app that wasn't secure, and now their information is all over the internet. So pen testing helps you to protect your customers. It helps you to protect your shareholders. Another thing is pen testing helps to avoid, right, brand damage. Right now we have the T app. Their brand name is now damaged, right? Their brand name is now damaged for how much vulnerable they were, how much information attackers were able to get from the app, right, from the database of the app. So it helps you as an organization to avoid brand damage. Yeah. So another thing is to penetration testing, right? Another reason is that penetration testing is important because it allows you to follow regulatory compliance. Yeah, so in cybersecurity, there are compliances and standards that organizations have to follow. If an organization is dealing with, let's see, an organization for like a hospital, you're dealing with the health information of your users, you have to follow their standards out there. You have to follow. If you're dealing with payment card details, there are standards. Yeah, there are standards you have to follow to secure the card details of your customers, right? You have to secure the health information of your customers. You have to secure the personal information of your customers. So there are standards you have to follow. There are standards that organizations, right, have to follow. So pen testing helps to inform the company if they are actually following that standards. Yeah, if they're actually protecting the card details of their users, right, of their customers. So these are all the reasons I can explain on why pen testing is important. Next up, we are going to talk about the types of pen testing, right? So why what is being tested. I mean, so what is being tested in pen, you know what pen testing is, right? So now what is being tested in testing? Yeah, what is being tested in, yeah, in penetration testing. So we have like different types of pen testing. We have the web penetration testing, we have the API penetration testing, we have cloud penetration testing, we have wireless penetration testing, we have mobile, we have network, we have physical, social engineering, we have IoT, and we have AI. So for web penetration testing, we use web applications. We all use web applications, right? You're even using a you're even using a web browser, right, to join this to join this meeting if you're not using Google Meet here. So we use we visit web browsers, we visit web apps like almost every day, right? So as a pen tester, your role is to, if you're a web penetration tester, your role is to ensure that web applications, right, that organizations' web applications are secure. You're testing web apps, right? Web apps have vulnerabilities, I mean, that are like specific to them. So your role as a pen tester is to test web applications for vulnerabilities that might be present in them and exploit these vulnerabilities report these vulnerabilities to organizations. So as a web pen tester, you're focusing on web applications here. So for API penetration testing, you're focusing on APIs, right? So APIs also have vulnerabilities that are specific to them. Yeah, just like web apps, they have vulnerabilities that are specific to them. A common vulnerability is like an API allowing you to access the an API allowing you to access the personal information of user user B that doesn't belong to you. So it's like if a common vulnerability is like user A accessing the information of user B that they shouldn't have access to. This is a common vulnerabilities in API. So as a penetration tester, your role is to find vulnerabilities in APIs and then report those vulnerabilities. Yeah. So we have like cloud penetration testing, just like, yeah, cloud penetration testing, you're testing cloud-based systems, right? Identifying vulnerabilities in serverless architectures, right? And reporting these vulnerabilities to companies. So your focus is just going to be on cloud-based architectures, cloud-based systems, right? Compared to API and web. So for another name for wireless pen testing is Wi-Fi pen testing. So you're testing your Wi-Fi network, you're testing your Wi-Fi network, right? Testing wireless networks, identifying vulnerabilities in those networks and exploiting them. Like someone connecting to, like, after this course, I'm going to point you to resources that will help you to that will help you gain the knowledge you can to like perform web and wireless penetration testing. The it's one of the easy it's one of the easiest, yeah, pen tests out there. Yeah, so we have the wireless penetration testing, which is like testing Wi-Fi networks and all of those. Yeah. So we have the mobile penetration testing. For mobile penetration testing, you're testing mobile apps, right? You're testing mobile apps to identify vulnerabilities, and mobile apps have vulnerabilities that are specific to them as well. Because these are different infrastructures, right? These are different, yeah, applications. They have vulnerabilities that are specific to them. So for mobile penetration testing, you're testing iOS, you're testing Android apps, right, to discover vulnerabilities in them. So we have network penetration testing. You're testing network infrastructures, right? Like the file transfer protocol, you're testing the SSH protocol, you're testing different protocols, right? Just different protocols to identify vulnerabilities in them. So we also have physical penetration testing. Physical penetration testing is you're going to the company's building, right? To test the the how secure, right, the company environment is. You're trying to you're testing the locks, right? You're testing the locks, you're testing the padlocks, you're testing the elevators, you're testing like physical you're testing physical things, right? Seeing if you can break these things, right? Not like when I say break, I don't mean like destroy them. I mean if you can, like, yeah, like let's say padlock, for example, right? If you can like unlock the padlock without the key. So that's one of the things that physical pen testers do, right? I mean, yeah, so we have social engineering. Unlike physical pen testing where you have to like go to the building to see if you can bypass cameras, bypass the guard dogs and things like that. Social engineering is more like you're interacting with people and trying to interacting with people, identifying vulnerabilities in these people and then exploiting these people. Yeah, so there was a recent attack on Bolt, right? On Uber, I mean, sorry. Yeah, where an activist, a attacker, right? Where an attacker, I mean, communicated communicate communicated with a worker, communicated with someone who works at Uber, right? Got close to this worker, got close to this worker on a different level, and then the attacker then started like asking information about the company she works at, which is Uber. Started asking information about the company. This information that this attacker got from her, right? Got from this person, that information was enough for the attacker to like gain access used to exploit the company. Because after like you build relationships with these people in social engineering, you're building relationships with people. After building relationships to help you to identify weaknesses, areas in which you can exploit in people, and then areas in which you can exploit in people to achieve your goal. Like if you're given a task to perform social engineering on a company, you have to look at the workers, look at who you can get close to, befriend that person, then after you've befriended the person, gained that person trust, right? You start asking, you now start performing, doing what you're trying to achieve your goal. After you've achieved your goal, if your goal is successful, then you report back to the company. If it wasn't successful, right, then you also report back to the company. So that's it with social engineering, exploiting people, right, gaining people's trust and then exploiting those trust. Yeah, so then we have IoT pen testing. IoT, you're testing like IoT devices for vulnerabilities, right? Internet of Things for devices for vulnerabilities. Then next up we have AI. With the rise of AI, we now have AI pen testing, where you're testing large language models, you're testing generative AIs, trying to inject them with prompts, where trying to get information from AIs, right? Prompt, there's what we call prompt injection, right? The writing prompt, you're trying to inject the AI. I mean, so these are like different areas of these are like different types of pen testing. And you don't have to like start out with all. You just have to, if you're getting into penetration testing, just have to pick which one you want to start with. When I started with network penetration testing because that's what you commonly start with. Excuse me, I started with network penetration testing when I started. Then I moved on to web penetration testing. I focused on web penetration testing for a while before I discovered API penetration testing, and I started exploring the API pen testing. Then I moved on to mobile, cloud. Yeah. So you don't have to like focus on everything. Just pick a niche, start with that niche. After you've built the foundation, right? You now pick something else, right, and then focus on that. That's just how you get to grow. Yeah, that's just how you like get to grow. So now we are done with the types of penetration testing. We are going to talk about the types of pen testing approach. How much information does a pen tester need to have? Yeah, so but how much information does a pen tester do a pen tester right need to have? Yeah, so we have like different approaches to pen testing. There is black box, there is the white box, and then there is the gray box. So for black box pen testing, you're given little information, right? You're given little to no information about the company. Let's say the company just give you their their domain name, right? The only thing the company gives you in a black box pen testing is their domain name, and then they tell you, "Oh, we're just giving you this domain name. Use use this domain name, right? From this domain name, we want you to look for vulnerabilities in our system, exploit those vulnerabilities and gain access to our systems. Let's see how far you can go from this black box approach. So you're just giving very limited information about the company. What you do here in a black box testing scenario, you have to if you're given the the website, right, the domain name of the company, you have to start researching that domain name, trying to see if you can look at the people that work at the company, trying to see if you can get if there are publicly available information about the company, right? So you have to your for black box approach, you're going with just have the domain name, looking at ways you can get you can grow, right? Gather much information, use that domain name to get so many things about the company that the company has not given to you, and then gain access to the company. So we have the gray box. The gray box, you're given very little information about the company. Let's say the company gives you a list of domain names, they give you a list of IP addresses, right? They give you a list of domain names or IP addresses that you should that you should work with. So compared to black box they just give you like the domain name. Gray box, they give you like a list of domain names that you can work with, and those information, and then tell you to like use this limited information you have to to like begin with the limited information you have. So you're starting with the limited information you have. Look at trying to use the internet to gather publicly available information, and then see ways you can gain access to the company's network. Yeah, so for white box penetration testing, the white box approach, you're given all information you need as a pen tester, all the information you need as a pen tester to perform your pen test. Everything you need, the company is going to provide for you. So this approach makes it so much easier for you to perform your pen test. You know everything you need to you know that you're not like missing anything when you're starting out, compared to black box. The only thing you have is your domain name, so you might miss out some things. You're only using what you're finding from the internet, what you're only like the information you're able to gather depends on your knowledge, right? As a pen tester, depends on your experience as a pen tester, right? And also gray box. While white box, the company gives you everything you need for your pen testing, right? To perform your pen test. Now, coming to internal versus external penetration testing, where is this your pen test attack coming from, right? So where is the pen test coming from? External penetration testing is like black box and gray box, right? So you have limited information about this company. So you're starting with publicly available information from the internet. You're starting with things that you can gather from the internet. And these things will help you with the information you need to exploit this company and gain access to the company. While a white box is more of the internal testing approach, where the company has already given you the everything you need, and which means that you're already starting from the internal approach, right? You already have everything you need, meaning that you're already inside the company. Maybe the company can give you access to a specific network, right? And then they'll tell you they want to see if you can get past that network, get past that system, and gain access to other systems. So external, you're testing the company from a black box testing approach. Internal, you already have access to some of the systems in the network, and you're seeing if you can go further, right? These are the difference between the external pen testing and the internal penetration testing. So we now have the different testing methodologies, right? So the pen testing, in pen testing, we have things known as pen testing standards and methodologies. These are different, these are standards. These standards are out there to help penetration testers, to guide penetration testers, right, in performing their pen test. So there are methodologies that you should follow, as that you must follow as a penetration tester, right, when performing pen tests. One of them is the OWASP web security testing guide. This one is specific for web applications. This one is specific for web applications. So the OAPS and web security testing guide helps you as penetration, guides you as a penetration tester, right, on ways you can go about exploiting web applications, identifying vulnerabilities, and exploiting web applications, right? So another framework or standard we have is special publication, which stands for the national which stands for the National Institute of Standards and Technology, right? So this is a methodology that pen testers can choose to follow, right? Can choose to follow when performing pen tests. Another methodology is the penetration testing execution standard. This is another pen testing. Each of them have their different guides, right? Each of them have their different guides, but all together they are trying to achieve the same goal, right? Altogether, they are trying to achieve the same goal, which is helping organizations identify vulnerabilities and also that they identify vulnerabilities that they can go about fixing. Yeah, so they have like the same goals but different testing approaches here. So we have the penetration testing execution standard. Another one we have is the open source security testing methodology manual. So this another like methodology you can choose to follow. Then we have the MITRE attack framework, which has like so many resources that you can use as a penetration tester, so many resources you can learn from, adversaries, techniques, procedures that you can learn from. Next up we have the Next up, we have the information system security assessment framework, right? This another methodology that's out there for you to work with. So you want an assignment I'm giving, right, is for you to go read more about these methodologies, right? Read more about these methodologies and know how you can go about like, yeah, with them. Just which one works well for you, right? Which one do you want to work with, or which one works well for you? Okay, yeah, which one works well for you? These are just the few methodologies I'm covering like in this session. So next up we have the penetration testing process. There are different processes. There are different like phases, right? In penetration testing, there's a thing called phase. These are like the different steps you take when performing penetration testing. There's where you have to start from, right? And there's how you have to start from, where you have to start from, and how and where you have to end when performing like a penetration test. When performing a penetration test, please give me a second. Yeah, I'm back. Sorry about that. Yeah, it was just something I had to attend to. Yeah, so in penetration testing, we have like different testing phases. There's where you have to start from, and then there's where you have to like end, right? So when you're starting a penetration testing, you start from the pre-engagement phase. So in this phase, right, in this phase, right, you're in the pre-engagement phase, you're like is a phase where you're making commitments, right? You're signing contract, right? You're signing agreements. Everything is documented in this phase. You know where to start from. You know the systems you have to touch, right? The systems you have to attack, and the systems you do not have to attack. And also, this is a phase where you also get you you also get there's this card in penetration testing where you're given, right? It's called get out of jail free card. Yes, so it's a card that helps you as a penetration tester in case you perform something right, in case you perform right, you do something, make an approach, right, that is against the law. So and that is against the law and brings about, yeah, that will make you to be arrested, right? So you if you have your get out of jail free card, that's a card you have to show, right, to authorities that, oh, you're authorized to do this and you have this card, right, given to you by the company. And yeah, so that's one of the card. Those are one of the things that are given to you in the pre-engagement phase. You have to sign contracts. You have to. The companies are going to tell you where you should start from. There are going to be agreements, limitations, commitments, tax, and things like that in the pre-engagement phase. Yeah. So after the pre-engagement phase, you know where you're starting from. You know what you're working with. You know the networks and systems you have to exploit. You now have the information gathering phase. You move on to the information gathering phase. The information gathering phase, we have like two types of information gathering. We have the passive information gathering, and you have the active information gathering. So in general, the information gathering is like gathering information about the company, understanding what the company does, understanding, identifying technologies, identifying assets, right, that are used by the organization. Yeah, so you're in the passive phase, you're going to use publicly available information. If you publicly available information, like you use your browser, right, to search for things about the company. Go to public sites that go to sites that companies make use of a lot, right? Search for your company. See if you can find anything that's publicly available about your company. Is there a worker in that company that posts a lot of things about where they work so much? Yeah, you can explore that workers page, see if you can gather something from the company, if you can gather something about the company from the workers page, because there are some people that post a lot about their company, that as a pen tester, right, you just go through the pages of workers and you're able to gather things, right? You're able to gather things about that company. So that's passive information. You're using the public information that's available to you to gain knowledge about the company. While for active information gathering, you're interact this is where you're now interacting with the company. You're scanning the company, looking for the networks, right, that looking for open networks, right? Looking for open ports, right? So you're scanning the company, you're interacting with the company, sending props to the company, right? So while while passive um while passive information gathering involves you just using the internet to gather information, you're not directly communicating with the company. And active penetration testing, you're directly like communicating with the company by either scanning, just sending props to the company, right? Yes. So after information gathering, after you've gathered enough information about the company, because one thing in information gathering is that the amount of information you've been able to gather about the company determines how far you can go in your pen test. That's why you have to determines how far you can go with your pen test. That's how you have to take this phase, right, seriously. Gather as much information as possible about the company you're testing. So next up, after you've gathered enough information as possible, you now move on to your vulnerability assessment phase. This is where you're using tools, right? You're using tools, or you're using the web to search for vulnerabilities that may be present in the technologies that are used by this company, in the technologies that are used by the company. Yeah. So let's say when you were gathering information about company ABC, right? You found out that um company ABC uses a particular software, right? Let me say Twitter, for example, right? Let me say Twitter, for example. We all know Twitter. Yeah. So the company A uses Twitter, but this company ABC, right, is using a very old version of Twitter, right? They're using a very old version of Twitter. And what you do in the vulnerability assessment phase is that you're going to search for Twitter. Let's say the company is using Twitter 1.0. So you're going to search on the web, Twitter 1.0 vulnerabilities. Since this version of Twitter is very, very old, you see a lot of vulnerabilities that are going to come out on the web about this version of Twitter. From there, you can read more about these vulnerabilities and see how you can exploit You can read more about these vulnerabilities. Gather the list of vulnerabilities you found about the Twitter that the company is using, right? Gather them, put that in your note, and then you now come to the exploitation phase. You're in the exploitation phase, you're exploiting the company, right? You're using the information you've gathered from the vulnerability assessment phase, right? The list of the potential vulnerabilities you've gathered from the vulnerability assessment phase to exploit this company. So now you found that the company uses Twitter 1.0, which has a list of vulnerabilities. So in your exploitation phase, you're now going about exploiting Twitter 1.0 to gain access to the company. Because when you exploit Twitter 1.0, you'll be able to gain access to the company. And that's what you're doing in the exploitation phase, right? You're exploiting the application from the list of vulnerabilities you had found earlier. So, right, you're exploiting the application. So, another phase is the post exploitation. After you've gained initial access to the company from the exploitation phase, you successfully exploited Twitter, and the Twitter gave you access to the company, right? It gave you initial access to the company. Now you've gotten that access. What you have to do is in the post exploitation phase, you have to escalate your privilege. That means you have to try to gain administrative privilege, right? If you can move from just that Twitter environment that you're in the company to a higher privilege, if you can get past that phase, right? So post exploitation is about you trying to gain higher privilege, right? For you to perform more like administrative functions, for you to read files, because sometimes when you gain that initial access to the company, there are limitations, right? There are limitations to the accounts you were able to exploit, other software you exploited. There are limitations, so you have to look for ways that you can exploit more vulnerabilities even further in that system, right? Exploit more vulnerabilities so you're able to read files, you're able to write to files, right? This is what you do in the post exploitation, trying to gain higher privilege, right? Finding vulnerabilities that will give you even more higher privilege, right? In this phase, in this post exploitation phase, you're even repeating the information gathering because this is a new phase, right? This is a new phase. You're now inside the company compared to when you just had the company's IP address and you had to gather public information about the company. And now you're inside the company. You have to start from the information gathering all over. You now have to start from information gathering. Look for vulnerabilities that are present in the system, exploit those vulnerabilities, and gain even higher privilege, right? Another phase is the literal movement, right? This one, unlike the post exploitation where you have to gain higher privilege, right? In the literal movement, you're just moving to another network that has the same privilege as this system you are. You're just moving to like another system, another network in the company, right? You're moving from, since you got access to the company using Twitter 1.0, you found that the company has another vulnerability, right? But it's not a vulnerability that will give you administrative privilege, right? But it's a vulnerability that you can exploit that will take you closer to your goal. So that's what you do in this phase. After you're done with your penetration testing, exploitation, getting root privilege, right? You now have proof of concept. That's why one thing you should know in each phases that you're going through, you have to take notes. One thing in penetration testing is that you have to take notes because the companies are not going to be with you throughout all these phases, right, of your pen test. It's through your notes that you understand what you did, how you exploited that vulnerability, right, and how they can go about fixing it. The proof of concept details it's like your report, right? It shows like proof, it shows videos, text, screenshots. This way you gather everything and submit to your company. Submit that report, right, to the company that you the retesting, right? To help them to replicate that vulnerability and fix the vulnerabilities that you discovered and exploited. So that's what we have here in proof of concept. Gathering proof, writing your report, right, and then submitting to the company, helping them to fix the vulnerabilities. And then we have post engagement. Post engagement is after you're done with all your pen testing, all your attacks. What you have to do is to now clean up. You have to clean up everything you did, because there's sometimes in pen testing where you're making changes to systems, you're making changes to things. So you have to make sure that after you're done with your environment, you're cleaning everything, making sure that they are exactly how you met them, right? They are exactly how you met them, right? Someone should not discover that, oh, an attacker came and made changes here. So you have to clean up everything you did and leave them how you met them. So this is like the different phase. These are like the phases of penetration testing. When these are the phases of penetration testing, and these are what you have to have in mind when right when performing a pen test, when you are about to perform a pen test. Just know that these are the different phases you have to go with. Yeah. So I'm going to show us what a rule of engagement document looks like. So a rule of engagement document is one of those documents that are signed during the pre-engagement phases. So in the rule of engagement document, you have things like what you should test in the you have things like what you should test in the company, right? It's like the a document that it's like the a document that shows you the list of things you're to test, right? The primary contact, your mobile, the company's mobile phone, the pager, the secondary content, everything about the company is in the rule of engagement. The networks, when your pen test should start, when it should end, the signature. So this is like what binds you and the company together, this rule of engagement document. So now we are done with the explanation of pen testing. We know what pen testing is like. Yeah, the different phases of pen testing, everything about pen testing. Where do we start from, right? Where do you and you're interested, you want to learn more. Where do you start from? Where do you go about, right? So there are different resources out there that you can check out, right, to go about learning pen testing. So one is Try Hack Me, which I always recommend for beginners, right? Beginners people who are just new to cybersecurity, right? It's a very beginner friendly platform, helpful to beginners who want to learn. So you check out Try Hack Me. Try Hack Me like has free resources, and all it has both free and resources you have to like pay for, I mean. So you check out Try Hack Me to learn more about penetration testing. Hack the Box is like a more advanced platform compared to Try Hack Me. So Hack the Box has like different different environments, different applications that you can play with, right, to build your pen testing skills. Hack the Box is after you've gained those basics, the basic foundations, right, in penetration testing, you now come to Hack the Box, use it to build your skill. Hot Trigger is specifically for web application, right? You're interested in web application pen testing, you can check out Post Trigger, right? It's entirely free compared to Try Hack Me and Hack the Box that have some free lessons, some free resources. Postfigure, everything on Postfigure is free to help you build your skills. API Sec University has also everything on API Sec University is entirely free, right? So it helps you to like build you want to learn about API penetration testing, you check out the API Sec University to build your skills. So we have other ones like Network Academy. Everything is free on this platform as well. So you check out the company, you want to like build your skills, right? So I think this is like everything you this is like all the platforms I am going to share. And I hope that thank you for listening. I hope that the class wasn't boring and that you learned something from this class. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much, Aditoye. Even if I'm not a tech person, I think I learned a couple of things from what you said. So, since we didn't start exactly at 6, we have a couple of questions in the group chat. I don't know, can you check the chat and answer the question? So
Okay.
let me just stop recording. So let me just stop recording now so that we can go into the.
Okay.